Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. This video is actually round 2 of a deal deep dive that I'm doing with Caleb and Jake. The first video was Caleb's. We covered a duplex that he's house hacking, purchased in the middle of a pandemic. This duplex that we're going to be covering now, this is somebody who's rolling into the stack of small multifamily. So Jake, if you could take a little bit, tell me about the size of your portfolio and how did you find this duplex?
Yeah. So almost exactly 3 years ago, I bought my first triplex at 22, 5% down, the whole thing. Every year or just around every 12 months since then, I've bought my next multifamily and house hacked that as well. So about to settle on our third property and it'll be 7 units total. And then this duplex, they had originally listed for 260.
Listed on the MLS.
Correct.
And did you have an agent with an auto search set up? How did you find it?
So I actually am a licensed agent. I'm part-time. I just use it for my own deals and sometimes helping friends, but I have my own search for myself set up for that.
Awesome.
So everyone who had a multifamily search would have seen this property as well.
And this is going to be a little bit sarcastic because I already know the answer. But in the middle of the pandemic, property prices are skyrocketing. People hear all the time how it's going for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 above the list price. This property was listed for $260,000. What did you end up actually paying for it?
So we ended up paying $208,000 with a 4.5 seller assist. 2.5% of that was for my commission, but
cool. And so if anybody isn't certain, can you explain what a seller assist is?
a lot of times it's used in the reply to inspections. As the buyer, you have the chance to have contingencies based on your inspection of the house. Normally, that's where we will use them. But for this one, I found out that the seller was very motivated. I just put in my initial offer.
And what made you think the seller was very motivated?
There's only one picture, and it looks like it was taken on a BlackBerry or like a flip phone of the front porch, which is the worst part of the property. They said it was a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom, built in 1920, looks older, had oil heat listed, nothing about a new roof, all the bad things. So it was listed for 260. 2 weeks later, they dropped it to 235. Less than a week later, they dropped it to 220. We come in, we see the place, we're like, holy cow, the second floor unit that they had listed as a 2-bedroom is actually a 4-bedroom. And now I'm like, just seeing dollar signs, I know this place is going to cash flow great. So I call the listing agent, why this sudden decrease? And they're like, well, my seller is trying to make a 1031 exchange happen by July 9th, which was less than 4 weeks away. Unless someone else put an offer in that day, like that's pretty quick for around us, a 4-week close. They said, we're flexible. If you guys can make July 9th work, I sent an offer in for $200,000 with a 6% seller assist. They countered back at 208 with a 4.5% seller assist, and I accepted.
One of the biggest mistakes a seller can make is letting a buyer know that it's a 1031 exchange. That has a strict timeline and it gives the buyer all of the power. I've actually done it on one of my deals too. I purchased a duplex and it basically let me take another $10,000 off the price just because I knew it had already been accepted or under contract with somebody else and it fell through. So I was the second person to make it in. So I knew they were towards the end of their timeline. 260,000 when properties are going for above asking, you purchase this at 208,000. What are the rents going to look like once you own this?
So like I said, we'll be living in the 1-bedroom, but when we move out, I'm planning on putting another full bathroom in the four bed 1-bath unit. That will probably bring in, I'm estimating around 2,000, but even to go a little lower, 1,800 a month. The 1-bedroom will be around 1,100 a month. There's a detached garage that I could probably rent for another 100, $150 a month. So we'll be right around 3,000 a month coming in.
And how much is the mortgage?
1,170 with principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Have you done the math to see what the return is on that?
Yeah, so it's pretty good. It ended up breaking down with a 15% going to CapEx and vacancy and stuff like that, which I normally do a little differently, but that brought our cash on cash to around 53%. We're putting down 35,000, but we're going to put in the new bathroom, and probably pull the right permits and stuff like that. That'll probably still be under 10,000 to do everything that I want to do.
I like how you snuck in the word probably pull the right permits and everything.
That's right.
You of course will, because we're,
Of course.
recording.
Yeah. About 10,000 in rehab, so that's going to go into it. I'd say, in the 30% range, high 30% range for a solid cash on cash.
The thing I like most about this is that you're closing now. You're under contract for this to close July 9th. When every story that hits the news is how many properties are going so far above asking, and there's no deals out there and nobody can buy one. And you closed in August of last year. Caleb, you closed in September of last year. I closed in November of last year. I closed on a duplex about a month ago. You're both closing on properties now. Please don't take this wrong. Other than you starting this really at a much younger age than many investors do, I think we're kind of three normal guys. I don't think we're super smart. I don't think we have millionaire parents. None of this is people buying a property all cash for us and just giving it to us. We're literally learning the basics of how do you find a property? How do you finance a property? You have several rentals now. You're coming up on your 6th and 7th unit. How do you find your tenants?
So I actually also use Facebook Marketplace. It's actually funny that the unit that we're filling, that we're currently living in, I never posted, and we just had someone make a deposit and sign their lease. Like I didn't advertise it anywhere, just because of our lifestyle and talking about what we do actively. Even my fiance, she's actually the one that found the tenant. She works with, another nurse, and they were like telling her how they're really looking for an apartment and, looking to get a little closer. And she showed her some pictures of our place, and they just loved it so much that, it was the perfect apartment. So
A lot of people underestimate the power of talking about what you do.
absolutely.
So I am very active in the Real Estate Rookie Facebook group and the official BiggerPockets Facebook group. But on my own Facebook wall, I usually put up what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Like, someone send me the next small multifamily in Pierce or Thurston County of Washington that I make an offer on, and I give you $500. Put that in a post on Facebook and people will send you things. We talked about it in our first video. I would like to cover it again. Can you go into a little detail on the podcast that you guys have? That's actually how we found each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, me and Caleb, we started this podcast back in December, the Young Slumlord podcast. And if you guys can't tell, we are like the furthest thing from slumlords. We live in the properties that we're turning. We put a lot of pride into what we're doing. It's more of an ironic name. The only people I've ever heard that were offended by the term slumlord were slumlords. So it's just kind of funny. And, it was kind of a draw for the younger audience as well. We're trying to really hone in on, kids just getting out of high school and stuff like that. You don't hear a lot of 20-year-old slumlords. It's not a common term. Me and Caleb, we just really try to add as much value as possible to the listeners, whether that's through a connection that we had that we bring on the podcast, whether it's through a story or something that we just encountered. We dive into it every 2 weeks, give a long form, hour or two podcast where we just kind of sit down and have a real conversation. It's not, we don't have much scripted. It's pretty much just us and whoever we bring on. Dion was on. And if you want to hear Dion talk for more than his 10-minute clips, he has so much great stuff that he put on our podcast, like the binder method we're planning on using. There's actually a few things that we've referenced our episode with Dion, probably more than any other episodes ever. So it's been great having Dion on, and really happy we can come back here as well.
And you alluded to it there for a second. You said you're going to use the binder method. So that's the plan with this new duplex. Will you do me a favor and come back in a few months and let me know how that goes?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll shoot you a text right after.
Awesome.
See what they say, at least. The only other thing I thought about that I wanted to mention was this year, in my head, my goal was to use my FHA loan or FHA 203K loan and get a quadruplex. That's all I was talking about. I was manifesting it. It was like that's what we're doing this year. And because of that mindset, I almost let this deal get away. I'm really happy that we didn't, but I think that's good for listeners to hear too, because, you can fall in love with the perfect idea, but it's really what's the best deal for you? What's going to make the most sense and what's available?
Why, when people are starting in real estate, the first steps are the same. Learn to save, work on your credit score, talk to a lender to see what you qualify for. The more you save as you're working out whichever plan you decide is the perfect one, FHA 203K loan, which is a good option where you're house hacking with a nice low down payment, and you're going to have funds available for the contractor to do the repairs to the property. So it's a way to use an FHA loan when it isn't a live-in ready property, or using your VA loan. But the more you save, the more you'll have set aside for down payments, closing costs, immediate repairs, and reserves. When deals like this come across your radar, if you're still looking for them, it ends up being a better choice than what sounds like you've been planning on doing all year. I've never used FHA loan. I still haven't used my VA loan. Someday I might use those.
But not today.
But for me, it makes more sense to save up a down payment, put that money to work in a property. The cash flow is better. My equity position is better. I don't scale as fast as some people who are using creative financing, but I'm a lot more stable and I sleep like a baby because of it.
Absolutely.
So
I agree, man.
And like FHA loans suck.
Right.
They just suck. Like
Right.
there's
they're
nothing
meant
about them
for
that's
somebody who has a worse credit score,
Yeah.
worse debt to income ratio,
Yeah.
and you're stuck with PMI until you refinance.
Yeah. And the inspection process, like these quads around us are like every other place around. They're like 100 years old. So like trying to get an FHA approval loan, like
And sometimes it's
never.
not so much getting the FHA approved and the appraisal done, it's convincing a seller to accept an FHA loan, even if you're in an area where FHA, the appraisers have a good deal going on where they're actually pretty fair. The sellers are usually still going to be told by their agents, oh no, we've got a conventional loan coming in, that's the one you go for, or we've got an all cash offer or something.
That's the whole thing that took me away from it. I put an offer in on another property, FHA, and like was looking at all these deals and talking to all these listing agents, and they're like, yeah, you're at the bottom of the barrel, bud. And I'm like, what if I did a 203K loan? So like I would take the punch list and I would make sure that everything got done. It's hands off. It's pretty much the same as conventional. And they're like, screw off. We don't know.
The most important thing to a selling agent is the buyer's ability to close.
Yep.
For most agents, that even actually means more than the price of the property, even though the higher the price, the higher the commission because it's a percentage base. But the ability to close is the most important. Absolutely. One of the challenging things, if you do ever go through with a 203K loan, do you know how the funds are released?
Yeah. Incrementally,
and you got to find a contractor that understands it. And so as long as you understand that, go for it. Okay. Well, I want to thank both of you for taking the time to make these videos. I will put links to your podcast in the description below. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Okay, now we'll just talk for a few minutes while it's still recording and try to not say anything illegal.
Yeah.